It's your daily 10-minute business and finance news wrap for this Tuesday, the 22nd of June, 2021. Later, why Bitcoin tumbled the most in a month overnight. But first, to the Australian share market, which recovered some of the losses it saw yesterday, up $33 billion, a 200 up 1.5%. That's the best session in 3 months, 7,342. Retail and energy stocks did the best, health the worst. And it's all about how serious market participants are taking inflation. Is it transitory or is it entrenched? For more, I spoke earlier with Martin Lakos from the market's been quite volatile of late, down 1.8% yesterday, up just as much the same at one point today. It's all hinging on the outlook of inflation. So what's this suggesting about how the market is placed and what investor sentiment is like at the moment?
Yeah, certainly volatility has been the tone of the last month. In fact, we've seen the VIX index, which gauges volatility in the US, sort of having a 28% trading range. So pretty significant in that respect. And there's absolutely no doubt, Ricardo, that the markets are now really switching its mind towards inflation, or the outlook for inflation. Now, we're of the view here at Macquarie that, in fact, this is more transitory. There's absolutely no doubt that property prices, the share market, and sort of the interruption on global supply chains is having an impact on inputs of manufacturing, for example. But we don't see this as long-term or sustainable. More importantly, where we're not seeing inflation really rise at this stage is, in broad terms, in wages growth. And while unemployment remains high around the world, and Australia is probably the best example of where we've seen an improvement, but elsewhere not the case, wages are not being driven high at this point in time. So we don't think inflation is a major issue for central banks, at least for another 12 or 18 months, or possibly beyond. That means that interest rate settings will remain where they probably are for a little while longer. And that's good news for growth assets such as the share market.
So given that, where do you see the market going?
Well, we do think that the environment for growth assets such as shares is very positive given these low interest rates and plenty of liquidity. And don't forget, the world is still very much on recovery mode. We are expecting to see a pretty good reporting season in August here in Australia, and that's going to drive the market higher towards the end of this year. So we see the market higher by about 10% from these current levels by the end of this year. We're definitely seeing some changes within the market though, a move a little bit away from growth and some focus back towards value.
And where do you see the opportunities for investors?
Well, the broad brush opportunity for us is just to be buying the dips, have some confidence that the operating environment is going to remain in this way. Absolutely. As I mentioned before, value is where we're looking at, and so those sectors and companies that have got exposures to key components of consumers and financials should do certainly better. And we've seen already a strong performance out of the Australian financial sector.
Martin Lakos there from Macquarie. Now, we saw a bit of a correction in the cryptocurrency market overnight. Bitcoin down more than 10%, its largest decline in a month. And it comes as China told banks to stop supporting such digital currency transactions and a crackdown on Bitcoin mining. That's the process in which new Bitcoins are created. The nation, however, keep in mind, is rolling out its own cryptocurrency. Bitcoin has slumped around 20% in the past week, and 50% since its April high. We also saw some changes late this afternoon to skilled migration and the government's priority migration skilled occupation list. It's gone up from 19 occupations on that list to 41. Remember, this list, though, is temporary. New occupations include various roles in accounting, various engineers and chefs, to name a few. The list was first announced in September to ensure a number of critical occupations are filled amid a skill shortage because of the closed borders during the pandemic. We've got a full list on the SBS News website. Don't forget, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, the SBS Radio app and Spotify, and you can watch SBS on the Money during SBS World News weeknights at 6:30. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, Business Ricardo.
This On The Money stream is provided for informational purposes only. The content in this stream should not be understood as constituting advice or a recommendation. It's not personal advice and it doesn't consider your personal circumstances or objectives. You should contact a licensed professional before making any financial decision.